Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and the second day of the inquest into the death of NIcola Bulley has come to an end. And what did that tell me? Well, it told me that it was what I suspected all along, an accidental death by drowning. Why do we know this now? Well, first of all, the most important thing is the classic signs of drowning. She had watery fluid in her lungs. There was no other sign of anything happening to her body that would link the death to homicide. She also had her Fitbit on. The Fitbit died like just a few minutes after she went into the water. So, therefore, accidental drowning. So I would think this should put everything to rest. One can argue over whether the police did a perfect job and all that. But that always happens when you have a case where it lingers for a while because it's hard to come to a conclusion when you haven't found the body. And there are people out there saying, well, that's what caused the whole thing, the police not finding the body. Well, they tried. They did try to find the body, and sometimes it just is hard to find. The media went nuts and the internet went nuts. So those two together caused a whole lot of harassment to the police, harassment to the family. And is it going to stop is the question. Well, I'm going to say probably not. We're going to have the faux profiling continue. What do I mean by that? When I talk about a faux profiler, I'm not talking about the detectives on the internet and the profilers on the internet and people on the internet who have a background in crime scene analysis. They may not always be right, but at least they're looking at the evidence and saying this is what the evidence is, and they're not trying to push every kind of crazy theory out there. That's being done by the faux profilers. Oh, and again, I'm not talking about people who have an internet channel that does storytelling. There are those who will follow a case and they'll put up the information from the police and put up pictures, and they don't interject too much of their opinion because they realize they don't have expertise in doing so. So they're simply telling the story. I myself sometimes have found those channels useful when I need to get more information just on what happened, who the people are, where it happened, a map or some piece of evidence you're going to show from the police. That's all fine and dandy. I don't have an objection to that. What I have an objection to is the faux profilers, those who go past that point. They have no background in analyzing crime. And so what they do, not every one of them, there are some who are untrained people who aren't bad at analyzing. Sometimes in the public you'll have people who have not become detectives or profilers, and they're pretty good, But we have so many out there who don't care about the truth, don't care really what the evidence means. They're out there to get views and to explode their channel, and they will look for any tiny little piece of information and they will put it out of context, because what they do not understand is what is called the totality of the evidence. In other words, you can always find some strange thing and go, see. No, you look at all the evidence together, and that's where you draw your conclusion. And something else that they lack understanding of is how people behave, how criminals behave, how homicides go down, how suicides happen, how accidents happen. When you study this for a long time, you have a pretty good picture of how these things, occur. And so you don't jump to these wild conclusions based on, things that are just completely just don't happen that way. Just don't. So let's take a look at this now. What do we actually know? What we know is that she drowned. But here's what the internet sleuths are already saying. I've seen it because I went and looked. I went and looked at the Daily Mail. And they have a very good video, by the way, there, which shows how she would have come here and fallen into the river and how her body would have been taken down the river. It's a long video. It's really good. So I'm going to link the Daily Mail below because I think that's interesting. But I went to look at the comments, and there were some perfectly fine comments. People saying, good, I'm glad this is coming to a conclusion. People, leave the family alone now. But interspersed are those people starting to ask those questions that don't need to be asked, but they're going to ask them anyway. And those are the ones that the internet faux profile is going to grab onto and make show after show after show. And they'll be saying it really wasn't an accidental death. We're telling you it's a homicide. Now, what are they going to latch onto? All right. So one of the comments I already saw was, well, she may have drowned, but we don't know that she drowned here. Somebody could have grabbed her, taken her elsewhere, and drowned her somewhere else. Sure, they could have, but that's not what happened. There's no evidence from the witnesses and everything that went down there that she was spirited away, dragged away, taken away at gunpoint, someplace else, and then put in the water. And mind you, the Fitbit stops working very soon after she would have gone into the water. So now we're going to have the faux profiler say, well, that's because somehow she got spirited away to some other location, like where she was found, or someplace even more hidden, and was thrown in there. And so within, those 8 minutes or whatever, somehow somebody got her out of there and got her into the river. Or they're going to say that they kidnapped her, took the Fitbit off, put the Fitbit in the river until it stopped functioning, and then they took her to their house or whatever, and then later put her in the river. You see how that works. And so they're going to come up with different reasons for everything. Then the other one is, along with maybe she didn't go into the river there. The other one is, why is her phone on the bench? This is supposed to be the big piece of evidence, you see, because the phone was on the bench. It was put there to stage that she went into the river here. That is the faux profiler's version of how things work. That is not how things work. If she had been taken, if they wanted to prove she went into the river, they would have chucked the phone into the river, okay? It doesn't make any sense that they would put the phone on the bench. Now, here is simply what likely happened. Why the phone is on the bench. So she's sitting on the bench, looking at her phone. It's in her hand. The doggy runs off goes from here, and the doggy runs toward the water with the leash. She had let go of it. She goes, oh, crap. And because she's going to jump up and try to grab the leash, you don't want the phone in your hand, so you just put the phone on the bench and you run after the dog. Then you slip and fall into the water. And that leaves your phone on the bench. It's something that simple. Now, I can't say it's exactly what happened, but it's probably something as simple as that. And so taking a story and taking a piece of information and developing every version of a story you can come up with, and then exploiting that by going on the internet and telling people, well, what do you think happened? How do you think her phone got on that bench? And then everybody jumps in and they get 200,000 views, 1 million views, and everybody's arguing about the phone on the bench for no good reason. And then they just keep going. There'll be 100 videos on why NIcola Bulley really was murdered. I've seen this in a number of other cases that I've profiled. I'll put a link to the NIcola Bulley case also below in the description. But I've had a lot of cases which to me were very clearly accidental deaths. And let me tell you, my video gets some views, and then some people say, oh, thank God, somebody's using some common sense and some logic and some good crime scene analysis, because it wasn't even a crime, and they all comment that way. And then I get a whole barrage of people saying, you're an idiot, you just don't understand how things work. I'm like, I'm a profiler, and I should, because I look at these cases, but there's a big attack. And then I look at other channels who are going on, saying these things are homicides that are accidental deaths, and they are just, the views are just amazing, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. And the comments are up to 2,000, 3,000 comments. Everybody trying to say it was what it wasn't. So sad. It really is. It's just, I think it's just unacceptable. If you want to tell the story, present a story about a particular case on a channel, please do so like the good channels do. Stick to the facts, show the information, and keep your analysis out of it unless you have some skill level in analyzing. And then when you do that, do it in such a way that you're not inflaming everybody. We're going to solve this case. No, the internet is not going to solve it. I have an educational channel. I try to present this information and show how I analyze. I don't want people to go out there into the real world and start chasing down leads and talking to the family and going after people. That's ridiculous. This is not what you should be doing. Leave that to the police. I myself, as a profiler, I don't go out there into the real world and start, doing stuff out there without working with the police. It does. I might work with a family sometimes to help them, but I'm not going to go further than that when it's not necessary to do so. Leave it to the police and stick to the facts. If you're out there going to put out other internet shows, and you have every right to do so. Just please stop promoting this kind of internet nonsense and stringing people along and getting people to believe stuff that's just not true. It's harmful to everyone. It's harmful to the families, especially the victims of these crimes or these just very sad deaths. So that's just my thoughts after the inquest, because I already see that it's not going to end all the speculation, and I wish it would. And of course, there are going to be people out there also who are going to say everybody involved in the inquest is corrupt. The police are corrupt. The prosecution is corrupt. The inquest is corrupt. They're lying about everything. And the conspiracy theory will start. So it's hard to stop all of that stuff. But if you're out here watching my channel, please take this to heart and just be careful what channels you watch. There are good ones out there. There are ones that I think are fine besides my own. But please pay attention to whether you're, spending your time getting sucked into ridiculous stuff. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. And I'm glad the inquest has come up with this conclusion. Thank God. That's all I can say. Thank God. And I wish the family can now measure peace. Bye-bye.